Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Indiana heading on the road to play Michigan State. You look at this Michigan State team coming into this matchup. Many of y'all know I'm a Michigan fan. I'll come out and say it. Michigan State was the better team on Saturday than Michigan. And you go back and watch that game. I've watched it back a couple of times. Michigan State really bad on third downs on defense. They were not good in the red zone. And they outgained Michigan by over or almost over 100 yards in that football game. Couldn't close it out. But you kind of see this Michigan State team going in the right direction, right? Aiden Chiles started to take care of the football a little bit better. Looked really good against Iowa. Played a very solid game against Michigan on the road. Now you're going to host an Indiana team. It's an absolute juggernaut. And I think a lot of people across the country and probably some Indiana fans were skeptical about how good this Indiana team was to begin 2024. You can't really be skeptical about this team anymore as they're starting to play some better teams. They just look the same. Like they're just rolling through whoever you put in their way. Really complete team that executes at such a high level. And I think that's what has made Indiana one of the best teams in all of college football in 2024. Fired up to get into this one. Before we do, and as always, I think most importantly, let it fly in the comment section. I think there's a lot of different ways you can look at this football game. It sounds like quarterback Curtis Rourke should be back for this game. At least that's kind of what I got from Coach Signetti's press conference Monday afternoon. So that's certainly something to monitor heading in. Let it fly in the comment section. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys. Without further ado, let's get into this one. I want to start with this Michigan State offense going up against an Indiana defense where you look at the numbers, it is so complete. And I think that's what makes this Indiana team really it's kind of an example of why Indiana is so good in 2024 in general, but specifically on defense. There's not really anything they don't do at a high level, right? They can rush the passer with the best of them. Mikel Kamara is playing like one of the better pass rushers that we see in the country. You got guys like CJ West on the middle of the defensive line, a really good stable of linebackers that can stop the run. And then you look at the secondary, forcing turnovers. D'Angelo Pounds coming over from JMU, one of the better cornerbacks in the Big Ten. And so you look at this Indiana defense and say, where's the hole? Where do you want to attack Indiana? That's the question mark for Jonathan Smith, and that's what makes this Indiana team so hard to deal with. Is there's not really many chinks in the armor that you can find, and they got some legitimate difference makers. I think that was, probably the biggest question we had. And to begin 2024 was, hey, they're a complete team. We can definitely tell that. Do they have those high end difference makers? Guys like Kamara, guys like D'Angelo Pounds on the outside. Those dudes are NFL dudes. They will be playing in the NFL over the next couple of years. Now, you look at Michigan State on offense. The numbers won't tell you it, but I thought that was some of the better football we've seen from Aiden Chiles. Now, as bad as Michigan has been to start 2024, that defense is still really good. They're aggressive. They give you a lot of different looks. I thought Aiden Chiles did a really nice job kind of playing within the offense, playing within himself. Now, you had that turnover at the end of the first half, but outside of that, not really putting the ball in harm's way all that often, but also being a playmaker when he's asked to be. You can see Aiden Chiles maturing and developing before our eyes. And I think for Michigan State fans, that's probably your biggest takeaway. Nate Carter getting going on the ground, that's massive. And we kind of talked about this heading in. We weren't sure how good this rushing attack would be. We knew they had good running backs. I mean, Lynch Adams, Nate Carter, they can run the rock. How good was this offensive line going to be? They're starting to run the football very, very well. Did it well against Iowa, did it well against Michigan. Two very, very respected front sevens. You give Aiden Chiles a rushing attack. You take a little bit of pressure off him in terms of what he needs to do at the quarterback spot. That's probably the recipe for Michigan State. I think the big keys that we're looking at, one, turnovers. Right? Indiana's been really good at forcing turnovers. We've seen Aiden Chiles be really sloppy with the football at times. I think the second matchup that I'm looking for, what can Michigan State do after the catch? Because you look at this Indiana defense and say they're pretty content giving you some of that short underneath stuff. They're allowing a 63% completion percentage, which is 95th in the country. That's nothing we're writing home about. Now, that being said, they're only allowing 6 yards per pass. That's top 20 in the country. They come up and tackle. And if you're Michigan State, if Indiana's going to give you some of that stuff underneath, Can you make those throws, but then make a miss in space and create some chunk plays after the catch? That's probably what you're looking for to have some success, because you don't really want to sit in the pocket and really try to push the ball down the field all that often, because this Indiana pass rush is really, really good, and they got some safeties that can get their hands on footballs. Flipping the sides here, I think the biggest storyline for Indiana is without Curtis Rourke, they kind of wanted to lean on the run game a little bit. They did a damn good job of it, right? Justice Ellis in the Wake Forest transfer, phenomenal game against Washington. Very similar conversation in terms of how we talked about this Indiana defense. I'll say it about the Indiana offense. It's really complete. They can do a lot of different things. They can get the football to a lot of different playmakers. Now, Curtis Rourke has been exceptional. I mean, arguably one of the best I'm not arguably, he's been one of the best quarterbacks in the Big Ten. And there's times where I think people kind of just say he's a game manager quarterback, and there's an extent of truth to that. Like Chris Signetti and this Indiana staff do a phenomenal job making the quarterback's life easier. They work a lot of play action. They scheme up a lot of good stuff. But at the end of the day, Curtis Rourke, a 75% completion percentage with an average depth of target of 10.5 yards down the field. That's an exceptional number. He's completing 57% of his passes 20 plus yards down the field. I mean, the Curtis Rourke has made some big time throws for Indiana. And yes, Indiana's offense, they will scheme it up and they will work to make their quarterback's life easier, which is what every head coach and every offensive coordinator should do. But when Curtis Rourke's asked to make some plays, he certainly can do it. They're really good in pass protection. The ball comes out quick. And then finally, just playmakers all over the football field. I mean, they got 5 wide receivers who have registered over 20 targets on the year. They're very comfortable getting it to a lot of guys. Now, their main guys, Omar Cooper, Elijah Surratt. I mean, both of these wide receivers are exceptional hitting explosive plays. Omar Cooper's averaging 23 yards per catch. Elijah Surratt's averaging 18 yards per catch. Doesn't get much better than that. And so how complete this Indiana team is, with difference makers all over the offense, with a quarterback that's playing some of the best football that we see in the country, this is a really hard Indiana offense to deal with. Now, again, I think we're monitoring, does Curtis Rourke play? And then what does he look like when he plays? That's probably what you're looking at for Indiana. Now, Michigan State's defense, I thought, played some really good football against Michigan. The one thing that's really frustrating for Michigan State coming out of this is not a very good Michigan passing attack, and you couldn't really get off the field on third downs. I mean, Michigan was 7 of 12 on third downs, and there was a lot of third down conversions where, it wasn't 3rd and 1. It was 3rd and 5 plus. Michigan was kind of in some obvious passing situations, and, the Spartans couldn't get off the field. You look at Indiana, they're the 3rd best team on third downs in the country. That's going to be a massive storyline. Can Michigan State clean it up on third downs and get off the field and force punts? There haven't been many defenses able to do it. You're going to have to do it if you want to win this game at home. Really good against the run. Like outside of Alex Orji getting loose a few times, Donovan Edwards, Kalel Mullings averaged less than 2.5 yards per carry in that football game. I've been extremely impressed with this Michigan State front seven. That was a big question mark heading in, but these linebackers are fitting the run exceptionally well. And so, can Indiana get the ground game going against Michigan State? That's probably a question. They've been able to get the ground game going in most of these football games. Can you take it away and maybe make Indiana a little bit more one-dimensional? Again, we haven't seen them do it. They were able to run the football against Nebraska front seven that I think is one of the better units in the country. It's kind of what makes Indiana so special, is it's such a complete offense. It's really hard to take away different sort of things because it's not one-dimensional. It's multidimensional. They can hurt you in a lot of different ways. Getting into the pick here, I think Vegas is still undervaluing Indiana, and this really doesn't have anything to do with me not liking Michigan State. Now, I think Michigan State is a team that is, one, getting better as the season goes on, and that's what should fire Michigan State fans up the most. But you look at Indiana, there's a couple of key matchups you really like. One, they can turn the football over. Michigan State's been struggling with turnovers, and so you feel like turnovers are going to be a very big kind of talking point in this football game. But I think more importantly, this Michigan State team, although they have some legitimate difference makers, guys like Aiden Childs and Nick Marsh and Monterey Foster, I think has been playing really good. Nate Carter at running back. They got difference makers. I think they're a little less complete than Indiana. And at this point, it's just I don't want to bet against this Indiana team. They've been kind of just a wagon over the last couple of weeks. Give me Indiana to go on the road, cover the number against Michigan State. Going to be a really fun one. for Michigan State fans, this is when you love to have Aiden Childs. Like this is a game that you don't have Aiden Childs, and you just kind of have an average middle and quarterback. You have a guy like Noah Kim. You're not really winning this game. I don't think you feel all Peyton Thor. You don't feel all that optimistic that you win it. With Aiden Childs and what he can do as a dynamic quarterback that can hurt you in so many different ways, you're going to give yourself a chance. Now, the point is, what version of Aiden Childs do we get on Saturday afternoon? That's what we're kind of getting into. We'll close it out there. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. I'll take Indiana to cover the 7 points on the road. Let it fly in the comment section. Appreciate you guys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We'll talk to y'all later. Peace.